every once in a while, you get to see a certain bad take that makes you just think, what? Or makes you think like the person who made the bad take never really consumed the piece of media. Whether it's a video game, a novel, movies, whatever. You tend to see some bad takes from individuals who only view the piece of work or fiction through maybe a short TikTok video or a YouTube video where someone is explaining something, but they have like a sort of personal bias. A personal bias that this person only wants to hear. And when you get that, you then suddenly get individuals who really don't understand, the point of certain things in the work of fiction. They just eliminate most of the context and just completely create a take that just seems odd. To the point where, like, even people, almost anyone from that fandom will be like, what the hell is he talking about? What kind of take is this? This is, what? Did they ever play the game? And this happens a lot. This really does happen a lot, and this is where a lot of bad takes occur, because it's very noticeable that the person who made that bad take doesn't consume the media properly, or maybe they're only saying it because they have a certain agenda that they want to push, and they use this bad take as a way to push that agenda for maybe some sort of hatred for a character or hatred for something specific. And in this episode of Bad Take Central, I'm going to go into Final Fantasy VII, because I have seen a take, and I believe I've seen this take before, but I don't remember if I actually did. But I have seen this take, and to me is a perfect example of a take from an individual who maybe never really played a certain part of the Final Fantasy VII anthology or anything to do, or a very specific thing that's away from the main game, such as Crisis Core. So the bad take is simply this: that Zack Fair, for the 4 to 5 years that he was not with Aerith, was ghosting her. Essentially, ghosting is just not answering her letters or, trying to get back to her, trying to communicate with her, and just completely ghosting her for whatever reason. Anyone who has actually played, Crisis Core and Final Fantasy VII understand why Zack was unable to respond to Aerith's letters or even just give her like some sort of sign that he was okay. And that was simply because he was knocked out during the Nibelheim incident. He was discovered by Hojo and Shinra, and then experimented on for the 4 to 5 years he was completely gone, where it felt like his entire existence was completely deleted, right? And Aerith did not know any of this. She just assumed that maybe Zack forgot about her. Maybe because there was a part in like really old school, like the older version of Crisis Core and OG, where they talk about, and I believe also in like some sort of Ultimanium, that Zack was like a playboy, that, he would always go around hunting or looking for girls. He was a playboy who just slept around with so many girls, right? And because of that, because of, Zack not responding to Aerith, this bad take came about, that Zack was ghosting her, which is completely wrong. Like, just completely batshit wrong. Like, the only reason you ever come up with a take like this is because you're using it as a way to hate on Zack. Why would you hate on Zack? Well, could be multiple reasons. Maybe you don't like Zack, maybe you're more of a Cloud stan, and you don't like Crisis Core because essentially, you feel that Nojima wrote Crisis Core and basically made it a replica of how Cloud met Aerith. It's definitely coming from a shipping aspect of the Final Fantasy VII fandom that this take comes from. Because if they feel that Zack completely ghosted Aerith during those 4 to 5 years where he was being experimented on, it devalues the Zack and Aerith ship for the Cloud and Aerith ship. And it's like, you could find many different ways. You could find many different moments that actually support your ship, but you choose the path. You choose the path of trying to discredit a character, try to mischaracterize a character, devoid of the actual context of why he couldn't, respond to Aerith's letters or tell her that he was alright, making her worry and just like making her feel like maybe Zack forgot about her. And you completely avoid the context and just come up with your own interpretation of that. That's where these bad takes can originate from because you're completely avoiding the context. Bad takes don't usually come from actually reading and understanding the source material and, actually looking at the context. They come from literally that, avoiding the context, misinterpreting the context, and just completely just ignoring it. Because at the end of the day, the point of this bad take, this type of bad take at least, is to shit on Zack. To shit on the Zack and Aerith ship, to make yourself feel that that Aerith does not care about Zack anymore, thus allowing the Cloud and Aerith ship to rise. But the problem is you need the context. I have said this several times in many of my videos as well or on stream. You absolutely cannot erase the context around each scene. You cannot take a scene. If you see something in a scene that really supports your ship, but you completely just erase the context that surrounds it, such as before, during, and after the actual scene, you are just looking through it through basically a form of like goggles. You're looking through it as shipping goggles. You're looking through it at like some sort of hate goggles, and that's where a lot of these bad takes can originate from. I understand wanting to prove that your ship is better, but you cannot do so while also shedding on another ship. You cannot do so while making a character of the ship that you don't like and attack that character. You need to use evidence based on the context around, the characters and your ship, and try to debate and argue with someone to try to prove to them at least have an understanding that because of the bond that these two characters have, you feel is much better in terms of emotional growth, in terms of like moments and like the context and meaning behind those moments are far superior than the other ship. That's how you argue. That's how you can at least, have some good takes whenever you're arguing or debating with anyone who is the opposite ship that you are, against. Shedding and hating on characters and making these bad takes, such as that ghosting Aerith, are not the way to do so. It makes you look foolish because now all of a sudden people who don't even care about shipping will look at that and like, is this person okay? Like, how are you avoiding the actual context of Crisis Core? Now, a lot of, people who don't like Zack and Aerith, or Zack, do not play Crisis Core or believe that Crisis Core is canon because it completely just erases everything that they feel is genuine and only for Cloud and Aerith, right? They feel like Nojima, who wrote Crisis Core, just completely just changed, what the original intention was in the OG, which we barely knew Zack, right? But it's not changing anything. It's providing emphasis. It's providing emphasis around a character that we barely know. And it's literally also referenced in the OG that Aerith's first love was Zack. So what Nojima did was essentially provide more context around why Zack was Aerith's first love, as well as connecting it to how Aerith, as she's speaking the Gold Saucer Day, that she saw Zack through Cloud, right? In many different ways. He is providing you the context as to why Aerith feels that way. Whenever she sees Cloud, she sometimes sees Zack in him. That's just context. That's not changing anything. The way they both are introduced to Aerith, with Cloud falling from the church and Zack falling from the church, even though that's technically not how Cloud meets Aerith for the first time. But, they believe that Zack having that moment as well is just completely taking away that moment from Cloud. But it's adding context. That's what prequels do. They add context to what the actual story that we've seen before provide. It's literally what it is. But, people do not want that to be approved because it goes against what they enjoy. I can understand that. It's very frustrating. It can very destroy your personal things that you love about your ship. It can completely destroy it. I get that. I don't like it when it happens with other series that I enjoy shipping as well. But that's just how story writing is. And by creating these bad takes, you're just proving to everyone that you do not consume the actual work of fiction properly. Right? I get it. You don't like that the prequel to Final Fantasy VII, like, really hurts your ship and really hurts the relationship and bond that you enjoy between Cloud and Aerith. But it doesn't change much to what the actual context around Crisis Core is with the OG, because it follows that path still. It still connects to the OG in many different ways. But that's how bad takes happen. Zack was not, absolutely not, ghosting Aerith. He was trapped and experimented on by Hojo for 4 to 5 years. He then managed to escape, brought a comatose Cloud over to Midgard so that he could go see Aerith and explain everything that has happened. But he never makes it. He dies a tragic end, but allows Cloud to live on and take on his will. And that's just how the story of Final Fantasy VII begins. Or at least part of it begins. It's all connected. No matter how much you want to deny it, it's all connected. You can claim it's a retcon, but again, it's how Nojima probably always intended. This idea that, like, Nojima or someone pressures him or, like, tells him what he should do is just a foolhardy reason because you don't like something. At least that's how I viewed it, and you can disagree with me, whatever. But, like, it's still a bad take, regardless if it's a shipping reason or not. It just completely devoids of the actual context that occurs in Crisis Core and OG. That's why it's a bad take. So, let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time, okay? Bye-bye!